And the other guest for the day was Darryl Strawberry, who was a Hall of Fame baseball player. And you can look him up, and he's one of the greatest baseball players ever, but his career was really altered by cocaine. And here he was. I was on the radio with him. I had collected his cards when I was young, and I couldn't even talk. The main gift that God had given me was my voice, and I couldn't even use it because I'd been up all night just using drugs to feel good somehow, or using drugs to feel anything. And that was crazy because I'd always thought in my head, oh, Darryl Strawberry, you thought about him and you thought, oh, he's on drugs, he's this and that, he ruined his life. But then here he was in front of me. He was 13 years sober. He was eloquent, successful. And I mean, he was a dang king sitting in front of me. And at one moment, that's where some things lined up in my life. That's where some things lined up in my mind and said, oh, hey, look, here you are with this gift you think you have that you can communicate. You can't even talk because you fucked up, bruh, because you've been out driving taxi. And here you are with somebody who you thought or had judged as being fucked up, and here he is a king. And it just lined things up in a perfect moment where I just had this moment of like, oh, something needs to change for me. And the next day I was back in Los Angeles. I was telling that same story to someone, and they said, hey man, I go to these meetings, I go to meetings. And so then I went to some AA meetings, and and for the first time in my life, I sat down and listened to people tell stories, which were my favorite thing to hear. My whole life I'd been loving stories, man. I love your story. Whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life when I was young, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story.